So this week, I've been thinking about self-care, and it actually came about through listening to a podcast called We Can Do Hard Things, which, if you've got the time, it's actually a pretty interesting podcast. And what I found interesting about it was this notion that self-care is often one of those things that feels like one other thing we have to add to our list. Like, I've got my work, I've got my relationships, I've got my job and my health and blah, blah, blah. Now I need to take care of myself too. And they were saying that perhaps it feels so overwhelming for a lot of us is because it's an external thing. It's not internally motivated. And so we feel the need to take a vacation from our life in order to take care of ourselves. And I don't know about you, but that's just not very realistic. I don't have enough time in the day to do my life and take care of myself. And so they suggested this idea of thinking about what self-care could be if it was more internally motivated, meaning we had a connection to what needs we were attempting to meet through all the different actions that we were taking. So then we didn't feel the need to try to escape from our lives, but instead we could find ourselves more embodied in our lives. And so I thought that that would be an interesting concept for us to start to play with. So the first question of the day is, what needs are being met through your yoga, asana, pranayama, whatever practice? And I'm going to actually ask my in-person audience, since I've got people in front of me, what needs are met just by coming to your mat whenever you do. Can I throw some things out since we seem a little moving? Yeah, so our need for movement, physical expression is being met. Anything else? A pause from devices. So some time to connect to ourselves is a real human need that we each have, some time and quiet and space just to ourselves. Anything else? Community, yay, whether we're in person or online, community is another need that is met. Anything else? A focus on the breath. Yeah, so it really grounds us in the present. And notice in your own body, if you just take those things into mind, a sense of community, a sense of breath, a sense of time away from devices, and a sense of movement.
And someone else making all the decisions about what we have to do.
Oh, and us not having to decide anything. Yes, there is another need that is being met. And just notice what that shifts about you. How, if you consider your asana practice as those things, how suddenly it becomes easier for you to make time, to find time to be able to integrate that into your life versus needing to escape from your life in order to feel whole or feel at ease. So we're going to work with that idea for today. And I want you to just check in moment to moment, breath to breath, and see what needs are being met, even if it's just as simple as the breath, even if it's as simple as just feeling how your body moves through space or not connecting to a phone or a computer or what else, and we'll see how that goes. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is take your blanket, and we're going to unfold our blanket. So your blanket will start off in the quartered position that is standard for most of us. And then from here, we're going to fold it in thirds, but we're going to fold it in thirds the long way. So you'll fold one half over, so it'll stack on top. And then you'll fold that part underneath. So it's almost like an accordion fold, because it is an accordion fold. And make sure that there are no wrinkles or anything happening, because this will really impact this. And then you'll bring the tail side behind you, so it's pretty close to your butt. So you might all want to scoot down on your mat. And then bring your pelvis onto the floor, and you'll slowly lower your spine back down onto the floor. And as we come down on our backs, you might want to make sure your strap is somewhere easily accessible to your hands. You don't need to hold the strap, but we want our butt on the floor. Yep. And then with that last bit of blanket underneath your head, you can curl that up until it supports your neck. So it really meets the need for a sense of containment. It meets the need for a sense of support and comfort. And then from here, let's just go ahead and open our arms out as wide as they'll go, right to left. And just experience this nice sense of expansion happening across the chest. So we also have this need for openness and expansion. We have this need for breath. And your legs can be long or your knees can be bent, whatever feels best to you. But you're going to take the first 5 breath cycles here to take an audible breath in and an audible breath out, and just allow your body to support or fall into the support beneath you. Yep. 3 more steady breaths just like this. And the breath might become a sigh. It might become just a little bit more sonorous. And you're just observing and noticing what is happening here, how this is feeling. And then we'll start to find just a little bit more control, a little bit more shape in our breath. So the next time you exhale, you can start to bring a slight constriction to the back of your throat. And then you'll keep that constriction as you inhale. And we'll just take 3 to 4 more breath cycles here, finding your Ujjayi pranayama. So the breath is loud enough for you to hear it, but it stays calm and it stays steady. So in this moment, we're finding a sense of internal connection. We're finding our breath and we're just noticing the experience of our bodies in this shape. And we're noticing what it feels like to do all this with community, both in person and online. Nice job. At the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently bend both knees and plant the feet firmly on the floor. Great. Draw your right knee into your chest. Hold at the back of the right thigh and see if you can keep your butt pretty rooted onto the floor. And then you'll flex through that left foot, send that left foot long and away from you on the floor, and then create some circles with that right ankle. You might create some circles with that right hip, but you're just allowing yourself to connect here and just explore what the breath is doing, how the body is feeling. And if you've gone one direction, go ahead and switch sides. If you've been working only with the feet, you might notice what it feels like maybe to work a little bit with the hips or vice versa, but you're just allowing yourself this time to connect, this time to really be with you. Awesome. Once you feel balanced between the sides, you'll gently come to a still spot. Release that right foot back to the floor, drag the left foot to meet the right. And then we'll switch sides. So you'll draw your left knee into the chest, hold hands at back of thigh, and then flex through that right foot, send it forward. And then notice what it feels like to create some little ankle circles here. And as we're on this side, we'll start to draw a little bit more attention to that right leg. So you'll flex through the right foot. You'll press down into the right heel, the right calf. You'll notice what's happening in your jaw. And as you move to maybe hip circles, if you were with ankle circles, or you move to ankle circles, if you were at hip circles, you're just exploring what this feels like. How might we be able to nurture and nourish ourselves if we were a bit more conscious about why we were doing what we were doing? Awesome sauce. Go ahead and come to a still neutral spot. Release that left foot to the floor. Release the right foot to the floor. And we'll pause here for a moment. Some of you will stay here on your backs with this blanket underneath you. Some of you will roll over to your side, come off of your blanket, and roll back onto a flat mat. So you choose what feels best to you. We're going to do a thigh root. So from here, once you're back on your back, however you wish to be, go ahead and draw your right knee into your chest. Go ahead and draw your strap into your hands and put the strap across the ball of your right foot and then send it up. And if you're still on that blanket underneath your spine, once you start to send that right foot up, we're going to pause here. Let's make sure the right pelvis still stays glued to the floor. Can I help him? There we go. And we're going to make sure that strap is across the ball of the right foot. And then you might flex through the left foot and send the left foot forward beneath you. And if you're on that blanket, especially my sacrum people, you want to make sure that you're dropping that right thigh straight down. Yep. So it's more at a 90-degree angle than closer to your chest. And it'll just help you feel some spaciousness across the top of the sacrum on the back. And you're going to breathe. And we're going to reach up through that right foot as we push down through the left heel, the left calf, and slightly roll that inner left thigh to the floor. And then we're going to breathe. On your next exhalation, draw both ends of the strap into your right hand. Left hand can come to top of left hip or thigh, or you might open the leg the arm out to the left, and you're going to start to turn your right heel towards the sky, turn your toes towards the floor, and yep, there you go. And open the right leg out to the right. But as you go out to the right, hug that outer right hip, yep, into that outer left hip. Keep rooting down into the left thigh, left calf. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you notice what you notice. Next inhalation, gently come back up with the strength of the legs and the abs. And then when you're ready, you'll draw the knee into your chest, release the strap, and put the foot on the floor. Take a moment to pause and just observe what impact did that have. And then we'll go ahead and switch sides. So you'll draw your left knee into your chest, strap up the ball of the foot, and send the foot up towards the sky. And we've got another few breath cycles here. And we want to notice how we can check into life versus check out. So with that strap on the ball of the foot, you can press up into the big toe mound and the pinky toe mound. You can pull the kneecap up and draw that outer left hip slightly away from the left shoulder. You might then flex through that right foot if the leg is long and internally rotate that thigh. Yep, and then you're just pausing and you're breathing. How can we connect in, tap in, so that all of our actions really have a sense of meaning and purpose, so that we're not feeling like we're running around with little chickens with our heads cut off. And then as you're ready, both ends of the strap come into your left hand comes to right hip or out to the right. Turn your heel in, your toes out, and then start to open the left leg to the left. And as the left leg opens to the left, you continue to anchor through that inner right thigh. Yep, and you breathe and see if you can press more through your big toe mound of that right foot so the inner arch stays lifted. And you're just observing, yep, and you're breathing. And then hug that outer left hip in just a bit more. Yep, there you go. Next in-breath, come back up through center. And as you exhale, gently bend the knee, release the strap, and plant both feet on the floor. Now, if you're on that blanket, this is the opportune time to roll off that blanket. Remove that blanket and make your way back onto your back. Also, at this point would be a great time to make sure you've got one of your blocks easily accessible. And then you're going to plant it between your inner upper thighs. Now, your feet can remain underneath your knees, or they can be wherever the heck you want, but we're going to do some abdominals. So go ahead and bring both hands to the back of your head, interlacing fingers, really holding your head versus your neck. Curl your elbows up towards the ceiling. Great. Take a big breath in. Top of the inhalation, hold the breath, push the low back into the floor. As you exhale, squeeze that block, curl your elbows towards your thighs, hold the breath, squeeze the block, lift the tail, and then inhale, lower just the head back down, hold the breath, press the low back into the floor, exhale, elbows curl up, squeeze the block, end of exhalation, lift just to the tail, yep, inhale, lower just the head, press the low back into the floor, holding the breath, exhale, curl the elbows up to the thighs, squeeze the block, lift the tail, inhale, lower just your head down. Oh, you just like lift your tailbone up, yep. Like a mini, well, not really a bridge, you're just like literally sort of squeezing your tailbone up. Yep. And then let's go ahead. Inhale, lower all the way down. Hold the breath. Exhale, curl the elbows up towards your thighs. Hold the breath. Squeeze the block. Lift your tail. Inhale, lower just the head down. Hold the breath. Push the low back into the floor. Exhale, last time. Curl the elbows up. Squeeze the block. Press the belly down. Lift the tail. Nice job. Inhale, lower all the way down and pause. Did that make sense? Did we feel our core? Okay, we're going to add on to that. Go ahead and remove the block. So we're working with a forest style breath. This is very specific to doing core work. So now you're going to lift your knees so they're parallel to the floor. Keep your hands at the back of your head. Now your elbows will point up to the sky and they're going to stay there the whole time. Now this time, we're going to go ahead and inhale. As you hold the breath, push your low back into the floor. As you exhale, start to curl your elbows up to your right knee, send your left foot forward. Let's have it come forward to about 3 feet so it's super high. Hold the breath, curl the tailbone. And then inhale, draw the knee back to meet its mate, lower your head back down. Exhale here. Inhale, hold the breath. Push the low back into the floor. Exhale, curl the elbows up, come towards your left knee, send your right foot forward 3 inches, hold the breath, lift the tail. Yep. Inhale, come back to center, keep the head high. Hold the breath, push the low back into the floor. Exhale, other leg comes forward, both elbows go to your right thigh. Hold the breath, lift the tail. Yep. Inhale, both knees come back to center. Exhale, both elbows go to the other side. Hold the breath, flex through that right foot, curl the tail. Yep, inhale, come back through center. Hold the breath, push the low back into the floor. Exhale, both elbows over to your right leg, left leg forward. Hold the breath, lift the tail, push out. Yep, into that left foot. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, last set, last side. Go over to that left knee, send that right foot forward. Hold the breath, lift the tail. Yep. Inhale, come back through center, hold the breath, push the low back into the floor, both knees together. And then exhale, both knees to the right, left leg comes forward, hold the breath, lift the tail, squeeze the low belly to the floor. Yep. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, lower down. Did that work? Okay. Forest is amazing. All right, so you're just going to take a breath and you're going to notice. So we got momentary expression. Our need for feeling strong came, our need for feeling our body, for feeling stuff move, for feeling stuff work. Awesome sauce. Go ahead and draw your knees into your chest, and you're going to rock and roll forward and back along your spine a few times. Forward and back, forward and back. Once you're up, you'll make your way to hands and knees. And it's at this point that I encourage you to bring your blocks to the upper outer corners of your mat. If you'd like, but we don't need to right now. We're going to go straight to down dog. So once you're forward, hands and knees, go ahead and separate your hands about shoulder distance apart. Tuck your toes under, and then lift up through the inner armpits. Send your pubic bone back, your inner thighs back, and then tuck the toes and lift the tail, downward facing dog. And we're going to just try to be very stable here. So press down and forward through the hands. Lift up through the inner armpits and slowly bend one knee, and then slowly bend the other. And we did a lot of core work, so maybe your down dog feels a little different today. It's very interesting how engaging the abdomen, really finding our center, allows us to feel a little bit more buoyant or light here, even though, we have not done anything yet to really open up the backs of the legs. And so you've got 2 to 3 more breath cycles here to just explore and experience what you're doing. And I encourage you to be very mindful. What needs are you meeting in this moment? Is the movement because it feels like it's meeting the need for expression, for exploration? Is the stillness because it's meeting the need for stability? We're allowing ourselves to choose why we're doing what we're doing so that we can feel a greater sense of fulfillment through them. All right, let's go ahead and inhale and come forward into plank pose, Phalangasana. Pause once you get there. Make sure your hands are directly underneath your shoulders. Push up so much that your inner armpits lift up. And then let's see if you can lengthen those tailbones back like you were curling our pelvis up to that block. Now squeeze the glutes. Isometrically pull the hands apart and reach your heart and sternum forward. Now you might be shaking just a little bit, and see if you can breathe through that. So one of the things that we get from our practice is just connection to our breath. We get this engagement through our muscles, and we have the opportunity to change our thought process by not being engaged with so many external things. You got 1 more breath cycle here. And on your next in-breath, shift your weight forward. As you exhale, slowly lower all the way down. Head stay lifted, hearts reach forward. Nice job, guys. Awesome. Once you get down to your belly, bring your hands back alongside your hips and turn your palms to face the floor. Great. Go ahead and separate your feet about hip distance apart. And then from here, take a moment to press down to the tops of your big toes and your pinky toes. And remember that action we had last week of widening your inner thighs up and apart. Lengthen your tailbone back, yep, and press into the tops of the feet. Then from here, just draw the shoulder blades towards your ears, draw them onto your back. Now, as weird as this sounds, I want you to imagine that for some reason your shoulder blades are lifting up to the sky, and that's what pulls your heart forward, and that's what lifts your head away from the floor. So we're going to see if all this action can come from the back body. Shoulder blades are drawing together on the back, and they're literally pulling you up. From there, start to reach the toes so far back, lengthen the tailbone so far back that the legs just start to float up and away from the floor. Awesome sauce. Continue to hug the shoulder blades onto the back, the heart and sternum reach forward. And this comes from Pilates, but you're going to do some little kicks with your legs. And I want you to continue to lengthen the tailbone back. Squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back. It's almost like they're what's lifting you up so the heart stays open. And you've got another 10. You've got another 9. You've got another 8, 7, 6, 5, low back long, 3, low back long, 2, low back long, 1, lower down. Plant your hands alongside your lowest ribs. Tuck both sets of toes under, yogi's choice, plank or modified plank. And then downward facing dog, 3 breaths. And you're just noticing what you notice. How is the breath? How is the body? How are you connecting at this moment in time? And as you're taking these 3 breaths, I encourage you to notice what needs are being met. And sometimes we feel like our needs are being met because we feel good. And sometimes when a need isn't being met, we don't feel so good. But if we can ask what need is or is not being met, we have more opportunity for choice. Okay, go ahead and inhale with just your right leg up and back. And I want you to see if you can recreate that shape we had on our back. So lower that right hip to the floor, press up through that right heel, press down through that left heel and say hello to your left calf. Take a big breath in here, and on your next exhale, lower that leg down. Awesome sauce, and we'll try that again on the other side. So inhale, lift your left leg up and back. And we're just trying to create that shape that we had on the floor. So many of you can lift that left leg a little bit higher without compromising that hip. Yeah, take 2 more breath cycles, press out through your big toe mound, reach down through your left heel. Nice job. On your next exhale, lower that leg down to the floor. Awesome sauce. Inhale, gaze to your hands. And exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of space. Great. Once you get there, separate your feet about hip distance apart, and you might choose to slide that block between your shins. You might not. That's totally up to you. But you're going to take a moment to hang. And I want you to notice where the weight is in your feet. For us to feel balanced, it needs to be balanced between the front and the back, the right and the left. All the things we do to try to take care of those that we love, especially if Roberta told us today, if love or service is one of your love languages, how can we apply that to ourselves? Great. Okay. If you're in movement, please go ahead and come to stillness. And then let's slide our hands up the fronts of our shins, halfway lift, pause, squeeze your block if you're using it. Send your inner thighs back and draw your ears away from your shoulders. Nice. Go ahead and draw one hand to one hip. Draw the other hand to the other hip. Hug the elbows towards each other on the back. Squeeze the shoulder blades on the back. Now pause, bend your knees towards 90 degrees. Continue to squeeze that block and then start to lift your head towards vertical. Great. Now, once we're here in this chair pose, you might keep your hands here. You might reach your arms forward. You might reach your arms all the way up and over your head. But wherever you're choosing to do, think of spreading wide through your feet. You're hugging in with your outer hips, and then we're noticing what happened to that breath of ours. Sometimes these shapes can become so complicated that we lose the ability to connect with our breath. Draw your chin to your chest just a little bit. So yep, the heart stays long, the neck stays long. You got 2 more breath cycles here. How does connecting with your body in this moment feel? How does connecting with your breath in this moment feel? And your shoulders are okay to reach up to your ears for today because we're not going to do anything that requires them not. On your next in breath, stand up, reach up, look up, pause, grab your hands, reach up through your hands and find length in your spine. Separate your hips from your ribs from your hips, and maybe you move around a little bit to find extra length as the tailbone drops and the pubic bone pulls up, and you're just exploring and experiencing that. And then when you're ready, you'll gently come to a still neutral spot. Open both arms out and release your block if you've got it. Okay, we're gonna work with a few balancing poses and we're gonna cheat first and see how it goes. So shift all the way to your right leg, float your left leg up and see if you can not use your left hand to plant the left foot wherever it'll touch that right thigh. Hands will then come to heart center or maybe they'll stay on the hips, maybe they'll reach up and overhead. But what I want you to find first is what need do you have primarily? Stability, most likely. So you're going to push down into that right foot, squeeze the left foot into the right thigh, hug your outer hips in, and then see if you can lift the gaze. Nice. When you're ready, you'll take a big breath in. And on your next exhale, release the left leg. See if you can do it without your hands, and release the foot to the floor. Great. We'll try that on the other side. So shift the weight to the left leg, float the right leg up, externally rotate the leg, and then see where you can plant that foot without your hands. And if you need to modify that with your hands, you can do that, but we're noticing where we are first. And then press down into the big toe, hug your outer hip in, hug your outer right hip in, and then maybe hands come to heart, maybe hands reach up, maybe they do none of the above, but we're finding that. So our tree pose helps us remember our stability, our compass, our North Star, as it were. And if you're wobbling, that's okay too. On your next in-breath, find a bit more length and yet softness in your expression. And then when you're ready, you'll exhale, release that right leg, come back towards one-legged Tadasana, and then release the foot to the floor. Okay, adding on. So weight comes back to your right leg, shift the weight and lift your left leg up. You're gonna come through tree, back to warrior two. Awesome. Pause. Look down at your feet, adjust your stance to meet your needs. So with warrior two, our pelvis is over towards the left-ish. Our right leg is forward. And I want you to notice what happens if you really just bring your hands to your hips. So with your hands on your hips, it kind of feels like your left hip is kind of going a little bit to the left for some of us, and that's totally okay. But I want you to press down onto the pinky toe edge of your back foot, push down into the center of your front heel, suck those points together. Now you'll reach both arms out, turn the palms to face up, and where's your breath? Okay. Now with the hips starting to go that way, you can then start to square your shoulders a little bit more this way. And for some of us, it'll feel like a twist is happening. And then from there, reach both arms up. You're gonna grab your hands again, reach up through the hands, descend through the legs, but hug the legs towards each other. So the spine is lifting up, but the pelvis is descending. Great. Go ahead and open both arms out. Pause here, push through both feet to straighten the front leg. And then reach out through your right leg, hinging at the hips, lowering that hand to the floor, the block, or the shin. Bring your left hand to your left hip for a moment. Push your left hand into your left hip. Push your left hip into your foot. Push your right sit bone into your right big toe, right shin comes forward, and then see if you can wrap your right ribs under. And then you might sweep your left arm over your head, either as a rainbow or along the horizon, but you've got 3 breath cycles here. What is your first need? Probably for stability. And stability comes by pushing into the feet and hugging them in. The next need might be a deeper sense of expression. So how can you deepen your breath? How can you allow your right ribs to come under, your left ribs to float up? Nice work. Nice job. Next in-breath, come back to warrior two. Awesome sauce. As you exhale, straighten that front leg. Turn both feet parallel to the short edges of your mat. Bring your hands to your hips. Step or hop your feet together. And then step to the top of your space. And we'll try that on the other side. So you're going to shift the weight. Well, before we do that, pause. Breathe. Notice what you notice. Where's the breath? How does one side feel as compared to the other? Sometimes we're constantly rushing through things and we don't know the impact that they've had. Okay, then we'll try the other side. So the weight comes to the left leg, right leg floats up. Hands might stay here, they might be here, but you're going to come through a tree pose back to warrior two. So that's like our dancer ninja thing happening. And then once you're there, adjust your feet. So hands might come back to your hips. You might walk the back foot back, the front foot forward. Maybe the feet are a little bit wider. Great. And then you're going to see what it feels like for you. So sometimes, some days, it feels like I feel a huge stretch happening across that front hip. And it often helps if I just let the pelvis go where it wants to go, lengthen the tailbone down, and then square the shoulders so it's more towards the side. And then we can go ahead and allow the arms to come up, turn the palms to face up, and then notice that you can reach both arms up and overhead. Now, grab your hands, reach up, pull up as you descend the pelvis down. So you'll notice that a little bit more bend comes into that front knee. Hug both feet together as you do that. So we're finding both strength as well as stability, as well as mobility. Nice job. Go ahead and inhale and return back to warrior two. As you exhale, push through both feet, straighten that front leg, and then reach forward, out, and down. Come into Utthita Trikonasana triangle pose. Planting block underneath that left hand. Maybe right hand stays on right hip. Maybe left hand touches floor or shin. It's totally up to you. But the first thing you're gonna do is use that right hand, push into your right hip. Press the right hip down to the right pinky toe. Draw that outer left hip back. And then notice if you can find length, on your left side to stack the right shoulder. And then notice where you want to take that arm. Does it sweep up and overhead? Does it stay right there? Wherever you are, can you find more length on that left side? So it almost feels like even as you're finding stretch here along the right ribs, can you draw your left hip back just a little bit more? The back hip, yeah. Does that feel different, Pam? No. Oh, good. And then we'll take one more breath cycle here. On your next in breath, go ahead and return to Virabhadrasana 2, warrior 2. Slight variation this time. Straighten your front leg, turn both feet parallel to the short edge of your mat. Bring your hands to your hips, draw your shoulder blades on your back, take a big breath in. Make sure your feet are parallel to the short edge of your mat, and then you'll exhale and fold forward halfway. Once you're halfway, lower the hands underneath the shoulders and then start to lower your chest between your thighs. And then we'll pause here. See if you can shift the weight forward just a little bit. Notice the sound of your own breath. With the inner thighs spiraling back, you continue to press into the pinky toes and you just notice and you breathe. One of the things I found fascinating about their talk was self-care, especially for Glennon Doyle, was really a really tiny thing. She said it was sometimes just taking a walk with her dogs. Sometimes it was writing. That's initially what helped her. And so we just notice what might be self-care for us. It might not be the big glamorous things. It might just be the things that help us feel our humanity, feel our sense of connection and purpose to life, to others, just a little bit more. Okay, let's gently come out of this. Go ahead and walk hands underneath shoulders if they're anywhere else. Bend your knees slightly. Draw one hand to one hip, the other hand to the other hip. Squeeze the shoulder blades onto your back and inhale, come all the way up. Pause, lower your hands, close your eyes, notice your breath. When you're ready, you'll gently open the eyes, step or hop your feet together, and then turn to face the top of your space. Okay, come back to stand at the top of the mat, and we're just gonna add on. So we're gonna try this 2 times and then see how it goes. First things first, weight goes to the right leg, left leg crosses over. And then arms open out. So we're just weirdly going into eagle pose. Left arm underneath, right arm on top. Maybe you lift the elbows in line with the tops of the shoulders. Maybe backs of palms come to touch. Maybe fronts of palms come to touch. Now you're gonna start to bend into that right leg a lot. Left toes are still on the floor. They might stay there. They might tuck behind the back of your left calf. And then you'll see if you can lift your elbows a little bit higher, and then you'll notice what happened to your breath. The eagle, for some, is considered to be almost like the phoenix. It has the ability to be reborn, recreated. And so it has a lot of strength in it. So just notice what you notice. What new things are you bringing into life for you? Awesome sauce. To come out of it, the left foot will first go to the floor. You'll straighten the right leg. You'll unwind the arms and you'll step back to Tadasana. And we'll try that on the other side. So right leg crosses over, arms open out like a bird. And then you'll wrap your right arm underneath, left arm on top, and maybe elbows just stack, maybe backs of palms touch, maybe fronts of palms touch. Then you'll go ahead and bend into your left leg. Right leg is still perhaps on the floor, or maybe tuck those right toes behind you. You're pressing the elbows forward and you're noticing your breath, noticing the connection, and just allow yourself to be right here, right now. Awesome sauce. Gently return the right foot to the floor. Go ahead and straighten the left leg, unwind the arms, and step back. Cool. I'm going to demo the next thing just to give you choices. And we're going to do all these or none of these. So we're going to start going back through eagle. You're going to have the option to go to warrior 3. You'll have the option to lower your hands to the floor. You'll have the option to open up to half moon. If you take all these options, we're going to reverse engineer that. So you'll have to come all the way back in order to get out. So you're going to check in with what your needs are. You know what we're going to do. Is this going to be an externally driven thing of, oh, let me try this? Or is this going to be an internally driven thing of what I'm going to do?
Yes, did you do that with eagle arms? Was that with eagle?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Don't worry, Mike, I'll talk you through it. People at home, do you have questions or was that it? It's so funny. Cool. All right, so let's just stand at the top of our mat. And the first thing I want you to do is just close your eyes and notice, first of all, how that felt for you watching all of that. That was like, oh crap, that's a lot. I'm already feeling tired and exhausted and you're asking me to do that. So just notice that. That's a real legitimate need. Rest is a real legitimate need. So is a sense of curiosity, adventure, play. So you notice what is more important to you right now, and then you pick based upon that. And then when we're ready, we'll go ahead and start. So if the eyes are closed, go ahead and open them. And then we're going to start, I guess, going to the left again. So your left leg will cross over. The arms will open out. You'll give yourself a hug, left arm under, right arm on top, and you'll take whichever variation of the arms you'd like. From there, you can bend into that right leg and lift the left foot potentially away from the floor. Option to stay right here, need for stability. Option to fly will release that left leg. You'll start to kick your right leg back. You'll start to hinge at your hips and come forward for eagle, warrior 3. Option is stay right there with toes turning down to the floor, or release both hands to the floor, coming to a standing split position. Option is stay right there, hands on block, hands on floor. Next option is to walk your right hand a little bit to the right. Bring your left hand to your left hip. Start to stack your left hip on top of your right. Start to stack your left shoulder on top of your right, and maybe reach that left arm up. And wherever you are is good. How can you meet your need for curiosity, for stability, for self-efficacy, for breath, for movement, for community? Hooray. Those in half moon slowly return to half or standing splits. Those in standing splits, bend that bottom knee and start to return to warrior 3 with eagle arms. Those in warrior 3 start to return back to eagle. Coming back to wrap that leg, maybe just pausing for a moment, and then from there, send that foot over to the right. Gently straighten your left leg, release the arms, stand tall, close your eyes and breathe. How much did you hold your breath through all of the wiggles and the wobbles? Self-care is saying, you know what, this is hard and that's okay, or this is just yoga, this is just movement, this is just play. We don't have to take everything so serious, including the ways in which we're trying to take care of ourselves. I don't know about you, but I'm always being like, oh God, I should do that better. And that's not really helpful. Okay, let's try the other side as you're ready. So open the eyes, shift the weight over to the left foot, and the right leg will float across to a little kickstand position. Open both arms out and then give yourself a hug, right arm underneath, left arm on top. Go ahead and double wrap the arms if you'd like, and then you'll start to bend into that left leg. Maybe the right toes curl behind the back of the left calf. Option to stay right there. Otherwise, you might want to take a flight. And so you'll release that right leg and start to kick your right leg back. Keep your hips as square to the floor as possible as you come into warrior 3. You might stay right there. You might release both hands to the floor or blocks underneath you, coming to a standing splits position. Stay right there if that works for you. Otherwise, you might bring your left hand slightly to the left, the right hand to the right hip. From there, maybe stacking your right hip on the left, the right shoulder on the left, and maybe reaching that arm up. And you're just pausing in your breathing. You're all pressing down through that left big toe like crazy. Those in half moon start to return to standing splits. So square your hips to the floor, lower that right hand to the floor. Those in standing splits start to bend that supporting leg and rewrap your arms for eagle. Warrior 3. From those in warrior 3, start to return to eagle, wrapping that right leg over, maybe wrapping the toes behind you. And then we'll all start to release that right leg to the left, kick standing it, straightening the left leg, unwinding the arm, standing at the top of your space, and pause and breathe and notice what you notice. What if we allowed our ability to take care of ourselves to be a little bit softer, a little bit easier? It doesn't have to be perfect as long as it helps us connect to one of our universal needs. Marshall Rosenberg, really great person of research, he says that we all have the same basic needs. We use different strategies to meet those needs, of course, but he says we all have the same ones. All right, let's go ahead and add on. Inhale, circle sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold forward at your hips. Wrong time to take a drink. And then go ahead and bend your knees, plant your palms, and step back to downward facing dog. And you're just going to pause here for a moment in down dog. Now, the reason that we're here is just to find some stability in our sacrum. So again, push down and forward into your hands. Let's all lift up through our happy inner armpits and wrap your triceps towards the floor. From there, see if you can send the hips a little higher. See if you can draw your outer thighs in towards each other as the inner thighs come back. And then just take a moment to pause and take a moment to breathe. Is that okay, Erica? Okay. And then we'll inhale and come forward into plank pose, fallen kasana. Pause here, press down through the hands, lift up through the inner armpits, and then see if you can send your inner thighs back. Yep, scoop the pubic bone to the belly button. You got 2 more breath cycles here. Big breath. Awesome sauce. Last breath cycle here. Notice what you notice. And on your next in-breath, shift the weight forward as you exhale slowly, lower all the way down. Head stay lifted. Nice work, guys. Go ahead and bring your hands back alongside your hips. Make sure the palms face down. And then separate your feet so they're hip distance apart or whatever feels good for your sacrum. So you might want to wiggle your bum around a little bit until it feels like you found a good spot for you. Great, okay. Now press into the tops of the toenails, big toenails, pinky toenails. Now for today, I want you to think of just lengthening your tailbone back first and see what that does to your low back. So tailbone comes back. And then just as we did before, hug the shoulder blades onto your back and let the shoulder blades squeeze so much together on the back and almost like they're being lifted up like a marionette string. They come straight up. Yep, your heart comes forward. And then we'll start to see if we can send the tailbone back even further, if we can reach back through the toes even further, that our legs can float up and away from the floor. Now this time, this variation, yeah, that's nice, guys. You'll take about 5 of these and you'll do them at your own pace, but you'll inhale, nope, legs will open wide. And exhale, they'll come back in. So this is to stabilize our sacrum. So those of us who have a lot of low back pain, you do this as big or as small as you want, but your tailbone is lengthening back the whole darn time. Your shoulder blades are hugging together. Yep. And this is really happening with the adductors, those muscles on the inner edges of your thighs. And we're trying to use our hamstrings. Yep. And after your last one, so last one will be now, you'll just hold there for 3 breaths. You might float the arms up and away from the floor. You might reach the arms super far back to float like Superman and Superwomen, and slightly draw your chin into your chest so the heart stays lifting forward. The neck stays long. You've got 3, you've got 2, you've got 1. Hooray. Bring an ear to the mat and pause and breathe. How often do we ask ourselves what needs are the actions that we're taking meeting? I know there are plenty of things that I just feel compelled to do societally or personally or relationship-wise. Bring the other ear to the mat. But how might I be able to connect with some of these things if I responded a little bit more with a sense of awareness or curiosity? Like I've been gardening lately and I really enjoy that because it helps me feel connected to the earth, right? It gives you some time to yourself. And really, even though I wrote about weeds a few weeks ago, you know, it's nice to see that I can make a difference by removing something that I don't want there. It's almost like a nice metaphor for life. Okay, so for me, it meets that need for reassurance or conviction. That's not a real need, but I'm gonna say it is. Okay, let's go ahead and bring your forehead to the mat. Plant your hands alongside your ribs and then just press yourselves up to hands and knees. And then from here, lower your forearms down onto the floor. And you can just bring your palms to the mat and you're just going to take a few cats and cows here. So we didn't do this at the beginning of our practice. So I want you to just explore what this feels like now. A lot of times teachers add in cats and cows because it's really good for your spinal health overall. But what need is it meeting for you right now? Awesome sauce. After your next one, you'll go ahead and come to a still neutral spine. Some of you will stay exactly as you are, but before you do, I want everyone to grab your opposite elbow with your hands. This indicates how wide your shoulders should be. And then some of you will return back to that number 11 shape. Some of you will interlace your hands. And some of you will just create karate chop hands. I personally have been enjoying karate chop hands recently. And then you're going to round through your spine a lot and make sure your shoulders are directly over your elbows. So you might need to shift forward just a little bit. Yep. And then you'll tuck your toes under and lift your hips high. Now keep lifting through the inner armpits, push down through the karate chop arm, forearms if you've got that, and start to lift your hips a little higher. Great, awesome. Let's lower our knees down to the mat. Okay, come up and sit. Just watching what people in front of me are doing. You guys might be doing this too. So once we've done this and we've set this so we know our distance, you might want to hug your elbows in just a little bit closer so you don't spread wide and start to fly out when you lift your hips high. So let's try that again. So you'll use your forearms to catch the mat. The skin will catch the mat and hold you in place. And then you'll come through a cat pose. Make sure your shoulders are over your hips. Yep. And then you'll tuck your toes under and start to lift your hips high. And with your shoulders over your hips, you're lifting up through your inner armpits a lot. And then you'll just pause and breathe here. And the task for the next 3 breaths is to notice how you can even out your breath. So this can become a really challenging pose, especially considering everything we've done. So just see how you can even out the breath. Keep pushing down through the forearms and lifting up through the inner armpits. And when you've had enough, you're going to come to embryo pose. So knees will come back down to the mat. Your chest will rest on your thighs and your arms will swim back behind you towards your feet. And then you'll just take a moment to pause and you'll just take a moment to breathe and you'll just notice what you notice here. Need for introspection, need for time away from devices. Notice if that need is being met here. Notice if you can connect to the feelings of your breath. Notice if you feel a sense of connection to community or to something bigger than you. Okay. Very gently, you'll bring your hands alongside your hips and you'll start to press your spine up to sit. Great. And you just take a moment to be there. How often do we give ourselves time to just pause? Great. When you're ready, eyes will reopen and you'll bring your pelvis to the floor and your legs will extend in front of you. Okay, and then let's go ahead and sit up on our blanket. So we are going to take our blanket so it's back into that quartered position, and then you'll fold that in half so it looks like that, and then you'll fold that in half again. So Cayenne calls this Tadasana of the blanket, and you'll find Tadasana of the blanket and you'll put your butt on Tadasana of the blanket. Okay. And then we'll just bring both feet in front of us, just kind of lazily. Your left leg is going to swim underneath. Sorry, Roberta, I'm shutting on your floor. Your left leg is going to swim under, your right leg is going to swim over. And I want you to see if you need to push down through your pelvis and shift your butt a little bit to the left until it feels like both sit bones are rooted. Okay. And then you'll press down into the right big toe, hug that leg really close to you, and then maybe the right arm comes back behind you. And you might just choose to stay here, but we're going to be here for about 5 to 10 breath cycles. I want you to notice what happens if you push your right knee to the right as you pull it into the left with that left arm. Oh yes, I've got some faces over here. So we're trying to target our glutes on the outer right side. And then once you found that fun sensation of just pushing the leg out and pulling the leg in, I want you to notice how tall you can sit through your spine. Almost like you're telescoping your ribs is the word they use for it in forest yoga. So it's like finding space between the ribs. And then notice that you can draw the low ribs back on the right side to wrap the left shoulder forward, the right shoulder back, and then notice what's happening in your mouth. Notice what's happening in your jaw and see if you can breathe. So there's nothing that you need to do here really well, other than just breathe and feel the sensations that are happening in your body. Awesome sauce. And you got just one more breath cycle here. And at the end of your exhalation, gently release the pressure and inhale, come back through center. You'll slide your right leg forward. You'll slide your left leg to meet it. And then you might just extend both legs long and windshield wiper, but you're just checking in, you're noticing. In order for us to check into our lives, so we don't have to check out of our lives, it helps if we check in and notice what we're doing and what impact that has. Okay, and then we'll return to the other side. So both feet planted on the floor, right ankle's gonna come underneath you, and then you'll cross your left foot over. And then notice if you need to lift the pelvis up and slide it a little bit to the right. It just helps with external rotation and internal rotation. And then you'll sit super tall, hug, well, I'm gonna walk that closer, hug that leg in towards you. And then you might bring left arm behind you, right arm around your left leg. And then the first thing you're gonna do is just press that left leg into your right arm, pull that right arm into your left leg. And we're trying to target stuff that's happening on the outside edge of that left hip. And then once you've found that, keep pressing into your big toe mound on the left foot, lift up through your spine. And then evacuate the belly on the left to rotate your right ribs more into your inner left thigh. Yeah. And then notice the gaze. See if you can soften the mouth and notice the breath. You just got about 3 to 4 more breath cycles here. And I just want you to feel whatever you feel. Our needs are very interesting, or rather our emotions. Emotions often tell us when and how a need is or isn't being met, and it's just information. How can we create more space for that information to come, for it to be here? All right, last breath cycle here. Finish your exhalation, and then you'll inhale back through center. You'll gently release your left foot forward, your right foot forward. And for today, if you want to, ankle circles, but we're going to take Baddha Konasana before we get back onto our back. Ankle circles, and I'm moving my hands. Nice. Okay. Soles of the feet come together. And I want you to just hold onto the tops of your ankles, pull your heart forward through the gates of your arms, and press the feet into each other. And then if you'd like, you can stay right there, or you can start to hinge the sacrum forward, spine coming forward. But you just got 3 breath cycles here, and you're just exploring and noticing what you notice. Nice job, guys. The end of your 3rd exhalation, you'll gently come back up. You'll hug your knees towards each other. You'll extend your legs long. Now you guys here will turn around. You guys at home will just make your way onto your backs. Make sure your block is somewhere easily accessible to you when you make your way onto your back. And you're just going to pause for a moment. And when you find yourself onto your back, some of you will just stay exactly as you are. Some of you will walk your feet in so they're hip distance apart, and then bring your hands alongside your hips. Now for today, let's all turn our palms to face up if you're going forward. Notice now that you can start to walk your shoulders a little bit up to your ears and then underneath you. From here, start to inhale, push down through your feet, push down through your arms. Great. You might then find that you want to walk the shoulders even more underneath you as you lift the pelvis up. You might want to interlace the hands. You might grab the outer edges of your mat or take some other variation. But we're going to pause here. We're going to press through the outer edges of our pinky toes, push into the big toe mounds, and then lengthen tailbone and pubic bone forward. And then pay attention to what's happening in your neck. Can the heart and sternum lift like it's being buoyed up? I guess being pulled up like a marionette, but you're just pressing the back of the skull lightly into the floor. And we're going to stay here for another 3 to 4 breath cycles. And you just notice what's happening here. Probably of all the shapes we've been in so far, the breath seems the most active here. It seems the most easy to connect to here. And you're just experiencing that. Keep pressing into your big toe mounds. The end of your next exhalation, if the hands are interlaced, release them, untuck the shoulders, and bring your pelvis back down to the floor and pause, 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 pause. Notice what you notice. Okay. We're going to try that one more time. This time I'm going to give you the option to stand on your hands. Do not do this if your arms are not super long and your torso super short or your body doesn't easily like bridge pose. So if you're going to do that, palms will face up, shoulder blades will slide underneath you, and you'll walk your feet forward so that you can step on your hands. That sounds really weird. Great, and then you'll walk those shoulder blades underneath you even more, and when you're ready, you'll inhale and you'll press up. You'll notice that this is a very different position. And so again, we want to make sure that we're pressing into our big toes, rolling those inner thighs down. Yep, letting the outer hips lift. See if you can continue to steady the breath. Check in with that neck, making sure that you're pushing into the back of the head, and then soften the gaze. You got 2 more breath cycles here. Yep. At the end of this exhalation, you'll just lower your spine back down and pause. Lower the spine back down and pause. Once you're down, release the hands from underneath the feet and slide them out to the right and to the left until it feels like your chest just opens, the breath becomes easier. And you're pausing. I think a lot of us have this need, or I'm going to speak for myself, to have an open heart, to be able to encounter and experience every facet of life as though it was just wonderful and amazing and nothing unexpected. And sometimes we need a little bit of support to make that happen. Sometimes we need a bit of time or exposure or repetition. Sometimes we need something else. Now let's go ahead and just give yourself a hug. So wrap the arms around you. Walk the feet a little wider than the hips, and then let your knees knock in towards each other. So constructive rest. Take 3 breath cycles here. And I want you to just explore and experience the breath. How do you feel it in the abdomen? How do you feel it in the chest? Maybe even hear it through the nose. On your next in-breath, you'll open the arms out and switch whichever arm is on top as you exhale. And then as you're here for these last 3 breath cycles on this side, I invite you to plant the invitation to just notice what else your body feels like it might want, it might need. And once you have a pretty good idea of what that may or may not be, you'll go ahead and explore those movements. So you have those blocks. Some of you might want to take a supported bridge or legs up the wall. Some of you might want to do some little twists. You might want to do a happy baby, but whatever options you choose, they're really based upon a very specific need that you're attempting to meet. Sense of understanding of who you are at this moment in time and what things might help you to feel more alive, more engaged, more at peace, whatever you're looking to find. And if you've done something asymmetrical, I do encourage you to make sure you visit the other side. And then when you feel complete, we're going to make our way to our final resting pose. Some of you may choose to prop yourself up on that blanket that we started with at the very beginning. Some of you may choose to take Supta Baddha Konasana. Some of you may choose to take just straight up Shavasana. You do what works best for you. Okay. And as always, the first few breaths that you're in Shavasana or whatever your pose may be for today, I encourage you to take those first few breaths to really fidget around to find comfort so that you know that the right and the left halves are equally supported, are equally rooted. And then once you feel like you found that sense of symmetry, I want you to check in and just notice what you notice in terms of your mental state. Once you have a good idea of what that is, I want you to notice what you notice about your physical state. And then I want you to notice what you notice about the breath. Where is it? How is it? Now for today, we're going to end with something called Nishta Dharana. It's one of my favorite sort of Kriya meditation types of things. So you're going to just bring your awareness to your abdomen. There's nothing more than you need to do than just to simply keep your awareness there as you watch the breath enter your body and as you watch the breath exit the body. Whenever the mind wanders, you simply notice that and you just draw the awareness back to the movement of the abdomen. Continue to keep the awareness on the abdomen. Return your awareness to your breath. And you'll just take a moment to just check in. Notice what you notice. If there's any part of you that's needing or longing to linger here, by all means, please hang out here. When you are ready to move forward with your day, you'll start to invite in gentle movement into fingers, into toes. Those in stillness, stay as long as you'd like. Those in movement, you might find that you're stretching or wiggling or yawning in a perhaps bigger, more expressive way. Gently, you'll start to make your way to your right side. And see if you can use your underarm as a pillow to support your head. And then gently, slowly press into your left hand. Bring your spine up to vertical. And I encourage you, once you are vertical, to take the opportunity to elevate your pelvis on a block or on a blanket. And just as we did in Shavasana, the first few breaths here are yours. So fidget around in any way that feels good for you to really be able to sit tall, to sit well. Us attempting to take care of us in whatever ways we do so that the best of us can come forth, so that we can show the love and excitement and gifts that each of us have with those that are really important to us. But very often we need to start with just really noticing how we show up for ourselves in ways big and small. So as you're here for these next 3 to 4 breath cycles, I encourage you to notice where the breath is now. What are the ways internally that you can begin to soften, to begin to shift so that you feel more capable of letting your bright and vibrantness shine forth versus feeling at all overwhelmed or depleted by all the things that we can do. Go ahead and bring your right hand to your heart. Stack your left hand on top of your right. And you'll just take a few breath cycles here. Feel your own heartbeat. Connect to that own vibrancy, that life that's within you. Guide your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of the thumbs into your heart and then lift your heart towards your thumbs. Exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in. Audible exhale. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Om. That light, that guidance, those needs within me, honor and salute. That light, that guidance, the needs within each of you. Namaste. Awesome.